Okay, so welcome back. Hare Krishna to everybody. So this is day 2 of our Gita Gyan level 1 course. So as usual, we begin by dedicating this presentation to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Founder Acharya for the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. So join me in this prayer. Om Ajnanaatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So if you all can also say along with me, you don't have to unmute. You can just say it with me as I read this. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just a moment. I think I'm sharing this wrongly. I'll reshare it again. Okay, this is better. And also join me with this prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we will begin chapter 2 in a while, but before that, it's customary to glorify the Bhagavad Gita. So yesterday we did verse 1 of the Gita Mahatmya. Mahatmya means glorification of the Gita. And this is the author of this is Sripad Sankaracharya. And this is the second verse. Gita Jnayana Shilasya Pranayama Parasya Cha Naiva Shantihi Papani Purva Janma Kritani Cha. If one reads Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. So, very good verse for us to note. So, if with faith and with seriousness, if we apply ourselves to the study of this Bhagavad Gita, then it is said here that our karma will not act upon us by the grace of the Lord. So, right, there are some new people probably who joined today who were not able to join yesterday. So, welcome to all of you who just joined today. And yesterday we did chapter 1. I believe the recordings have been made available to you already. So, and if you have seen the recordings, you can also try the quiz. So later on, after the end of this session, I will post back the level 1, the first quiz for those of you who have not tried. And then after that, I'll also post the chapter 2 quiz. So it's good if you can work out the quiz, because then your names and your attendance are captured. And it's also good for you to recap, recall back what we have gone through and everything. And at the end of the course, there will be a certificate which will be given. So, and that will be awarded to those who have taken part in the quiz. So that's quite important. Okay. So with that, let's continue. So today, before we go to chapter 2 today, for the benefit of those who are joining us and did not get the chance to go through the recordings, let me just do a quick recap of what we covered yesterday for chapter 1. So chapter 1, if you remember, the topic was observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The Sanskrit name for it was Arjuna Vishada Yoga. That means how Arjuna is put into lamentation or put into illusion. The Yoga Maya Shakti of the Lord, which is the illusory energy of the Lord, is used to sometimes put devotees into illusion for a specific purpose, for the execution of the pastimes of the Lord. So the Lord's pastimes are governed by his Leela Shakti. Leela means pastimes. So in this way, it's like a drama, The Lord comes down to earth and then he enacts a drama. And then who are the people who are in his drama? So he will select great devotees, very special personalities, and then they are also part of this drama. So as such, right? So to make sure that the drama is very convincing, so sometimes these pure devotees are, by the sweet will of the Lord, are put into illusion for specific purposes. So many purposes. One is to, for example, to further glorify that particular devotee who has been put into illusion. How does that happen? I will mention that in a while. And then other ways is it's also what do you call, to teach all of us also. So by creating these illusions, so we will also learn how to react in such situations. We can take example. So these devotees, they set the example. So like Arjuna, he set the example on how to go about in situations. So yesterday in chapter 1, and of course there are also other reasons. When the Lord does something, usually there will be many reasons behind what he does something. He accomplishes many purposes by just one act. So of course the other act is to speak the Bhagavad Gita. So for that purpose, Arjuna was used as an instrument. So we began yesterday with the Dhritarashtra's anxiety, the blind king, how he was full of anxiety because he wanted to know what's the outcome of the battle. And this puts into stark contrast, when we have anxiety, right? So he was one example, but later on we also saw how Arjuna was put into anxiety. So anyway, as he was asking the questions, he was asking his secretary, Sanjaya, who could see with mystic vision what is happening in the battleground. And right after that, we did not cover the second subtopic, which is Duryodhana's diplomacy. So right after Dhritarashtra's question, the verses are spoken by Duryodhana. Duryodhana will want to go and convince, he will try to manipulate Dronacharya, his teacher, and he will also try to flatter Bhishma Dev, the commander-in-chief, by which he is putting all his hopes on. Because Bhishma Dev is the foremost warrior, and Duryodhana is putting all his hopes on Bhishma Dev. But he also knows Bhishma Dev is very reluctant to fight. So is Dronacharya. Both of them are only fighting because of certain principles that they had kept within themselves. So and each time, sometimes they are lenient. So Duryodhana will tell, okay, this time don't be lenient, in diplomatic manner, he will say. And then he's saying we should kill them. So that is Duryodhana's mentality. So we can see, just to contrast the Duryodhana's mentality with someone like Arjuna, the Lord also put Arjuna into illusion. Now, Arjuna was ready to fight this battle. He knew the reasons for what he was doing. The purpose for the battle and everything was clearly set out already. So many injustices were perpetrated by the Kauravas, led by Duryodhana and supported by Dhritarashtra, his father. So in this way, right from childhood, the Kauravas were persecuting the Pandavas, although they were orphaned and they were taken care by Dhritarashtra. Imagine your foster father, Dhritarashtra, he brings you to his house and then tries to kill you. So in this kind of situation, so many things has happened. But each time the Pandavas were always very forgiving. And not only forgiving, they were not bent on revenge. They had higher goals in life. They had higher purposes in mind, and they simply wanted to execute their religious duties and their obligations. But Duryodhana will put a stop to everything. Because at the end, this when there was no choice for battle, when there was no choice already. So every single try has been done. Every single method has been taken by the Pandavas to avoid the battle. But ultimately they even sent Krishna. Krishna agreed to go to the Kauravas and to plea for battle, plea for peace. But when he went there, Duryodhana didn't even respect him. He didn't accept. In fact, he tried to capture Krishna. So, but of course he couldn't. So anyway, so he rejected. And Krishna asked Duryodhana, he passed the message to Duryodhana. Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was saying, I'm willing to just settle. You see, we are Kshatriyas. We are our nature is we are Kshatriyas. We are kings, princes. We have been trained from birth on governance, taking care of kingdom, protection, and things like that. So this is our duty. So if you take away our duty, if you don't allow us to, if you have cheated us of the kingdom in various ways, and if you are so into taking care of your kingdom and all that, that's fine. But at least give us 5 villages, just villages, so that we can, execute our religious duties in peace. So we will not come into your radar. But still, Duryodhana, his response to Krishna, when Krishna gave this message, was that, what to speak of 5 villages? I won't even give you a spot of a small piece of sand, for which a small piece of land in which I can drive a pin. A land, how much of land do you need to drive a pin, a sharp pin inside? So small a land, just like a tiny speck of it, that much also I will not give. Why? Because he was very envious of them. He knew that even if he gave them a small land, they will soon eclipse him in glory. They are very great. They are very virtuous. Very soon they will eclipse him, and he will be looking like the underdog. So he didn't want that. He tried it before already, and it has happened. So therefore, he didn't want it. So this is Duryodhana's mentality. And he tried to use every trick in the book to cheat, to wheedle, to try to get advantage. He went and, there are many people in the war who didn't want to fight against the Pandavas. But somehow he managed to get them to agree. So like that, Bhishma and Drona were also like this. So yesterday in the chat, someone asked, what about Bhishma? Bhishma, he's such a great personality. So why did he agree to fight? So firstly, we have to remember, ultimately, this is all a plan of the Lord. This is called Leela. Leela means pastimes. So everything has been planned. So remember, this is a drama, a setup. And the Lord uses great devotees as his instruments. So these devotees will show by example in different ways. It can be positive example. It can also be negative example when they are covered by illusion, for example. So in this case, Bhishma, he was a very great devotee. In fact, he's a Mahajan, one of the 12 Mahajans in this creation. 12 Mahajans means amongst them Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Yamaraj, Narada, the Manu, like that. There are 12 of them. So, and one of them is Bhishma Dev. That great a personality he was. And he was extremely powerful and extremely virtuous, extremely righteous, and he's a great devotee of Krishna also. But why did he act in such a way? So firstly, he could understand deep inside that this is Krishna's desire. Krishna wanted him to be on the other side. because Krishna wanted to show the world that even if somebody as great and invincible like Bhishma is on the other side, even if you have insurmountable odds on the other side, but if you have righteousness, even if the situation looks impossible, if you have righteousness and if you have devotion, and like how the Pandavas had complete devotion to Krishna, complete surrender to Krishna, Krishna showed how he will drive the chariot so expertly and he will get them through all situations. So he therefore wanted to use Bhishma in this manner. Of course, there are other reasons also, but we don't want to go too deeply into the Mahabharata, because then we will end up speaking. Mahabharata is a lot of things there, and another time we can discuss in detail. But short to say, this is Leela Shakti of the Lord, and there are other small reasons also, where if for example, Bhishma Dev had taken a vow. Now he had taken a vow that no matter who sits on the in the throne, he will always support them. That was done very much early with his mother Satyavati. Satyavati wanted to his father Shantanu wanted to marry Satyavati, right? And remember the story I mentioned yesterday. So therefore, one of the conditions also was this, that he will always, because Bhishma Dev was extremely powerful, Satyavati was worried that if her sons become the king and Bhishma agrees to not become the king, then what will happen? So Bhishma might use his great powers to attack the kingdom. So then therefore, to allay her fears, Bhishma Dev also gave this vow. So then you may also ask, but such a vow can be broken. So, but Bhishma is known as one of great vow. So therefore, this is also Krishna's desire, that he wanted to ensure that a mere moralist should not be morality alone or dharma alone. There's something higher than dharma. So, there are many levels of there's levels of priority. For example, there is Kama Shastras which help us to satisfy our desires. And then there are higher than that is Artha Shastras. So the conduct of Artha Shastra means economic development and things like that. Higher than Artha Shastra is Dharma Shastras. So Dharma Shastra is morality, law, that kind of thing. And even higher than that are what we call Yoga Shastras. So these are more important. So anyway, there are many reasons. So back to what we were talking about. So we heard about how Duryodhana was shown to be so duplicitous, right? How his behavior was, right? But we also saw how Arjuna's behavior was. Now, before that happens, Arjuna's, the question asked by Dhritarashtra, who will win? So Sanjaya told in different ways who will win the war. He gave signs of victory. Anyone remembers the signs of victory? Yesterday we were discussing quite a few, I think about 5, 6 or so, 6 or 7 signs of victory.
Lord Hanuman present on the flag of
the
chariot.
Yes, thank you, Naveen. So yes, Kapidwaja, right? The monkey flag. So Lord Hanuman.
The chariot?
Yes, the chariot. Thank you, Rita Mataji. The chariot given by Agni Dev, which is unconquerable, which cannot be defeated. Then
the conch.
The conch, the transcendental conch. Conch itself represents the Supreme Lord. And here specifically the word Divya is used. Divya means transcendental, spiritual, beyond matter. So therefore, on Pandava's side, there is transcendental knowledge. So yes, that is one. Anything else?
Madhav?
Madhav, yes, that's the most important sign of victory. The goddess, the husband of the goddess of fortune. Madhava means husband of the goddess of fortune. And he is on the Pandava side. And who is this husband of the goddess of fortune? The supreme Bhagavan Sri Krishna himself. So when Bhagavan is on their side, even though Bhishma is in this side, even though Drona, the great martial teacher, is in the Kaurava side, even though Kaurava army outnumbers the Pandava army. It's said that the Kaurava army outnumbered the Pandava army. The ratio is 11 to 7. So that means if there are 11,000, it's not just 11,000 people, it's 11,000 battalions. One battalion is made up of so many, it's a huge army. So like that, they had 11 battalions on the Kaurava side and only 7 battalions on the Pandava side. But still, despite all these things, victory is certain in the Pandava side. So signs of victory. After that, viewing the army, setting the scene. So therefore, Krishna, who wanted this Bhagavad Gita to be spoken, so he put the seed of doubt in Arjuna's heart, and Arjuna instructed Krishna, because Krishna agreed to be the charioteer. Okay, how did Krishna agree to be the charioteer of the Pandavas? So that's also a story. Let me just say the story very quickly so that we can get a nice start to this discussion. I haven't even gone to chapter 2 yet. Okay, never mind. Let me see. So, when the war was about to be fought, all the kingdoms in the world, the whole world was actually Bharatvarsha at that time in Dwapara Yuga. This was 5,000 years ago. So every kingdom was taking sides already, right? Except Krishna's kingdom. Krishna is the Lord of the Vrishnis. He's in the Vrishni, somewhere in the Dwaraka region, right? Dwaraka was his kingdom at that time. His dynasty is called the Vrishni dynasty or the Bhoja dynasty. So they have not taken sides yet, and they were also very powerful. The armies of the Vrishnis are extremely powerful. So then Arjuna and Duryodhana, Arjuna didn't want to involve Krishna in this situation. This is the nature of the devotees. They don't want to ask anything. They want to only serve. But anyway, it was a forced situation. So therefore, Arjuna went to Dwaraka to meet Krishna. At the same time, Duryodhana had his spies. He also found out that Arjuna is going to Dwaraka. So therefore, he also went to Dwaraka secretly, and it so happened that they arrived at the same time, and it was very early in the morning, before even dawn. So then Duryodhana very quickly, he went into the palace of Krishna, and Krishna was resting on his bed at that time. He was sleeping. So he went to Krishna's bed and sat right next to his head. So, he kept his place there. Whereas Arjuna, he went and then he offered his obeisances to Krishna's lotus feet, and he sat right at his feet. So this is the devotee. So, and then when Krishna opened his eyes and woke up, and then he saw both of them. And then he asked, why did you come? So then Duryodhana said, Krishna, the whole world, you have told that you will be equal to everybody, right? You said that you are equal to everyone. So I am also your relative and all that. Kauravas, we are part of the Kuru dynasties. So you are supposed to be fair to everyone. So therefore, I've come to ask you a favor. So that for you to come and join us in our battle. So then but Arjuna didn't say anything. He just kept silent. And then Krishna looked at Duryodhana and he smiled. So then he said, okay, but I cannot take sides here, because as you rightly said, I am equal to both sides. So therefore, I myself cannot take sides here. But I'll tell you what, I'll give you a choice. So you can choose two things. Either you can choose me to be in your party, but I will not fight. I will not take a weapon. That's his vow. So Krishna says, my vow is I will not raise weapons and I will not fight. So you can either choose me alone, or you can choose the rest of my army. So my army is extremely wonderful. His army is called the Narayanas. The name of his army. So, and they are extremely powerful. And Krishna said, you can choose either one. Who do you want? So like that. And then Duryodhana immediately, he asked Krishna, oh Krishna, I came here first, right? I came to your palace first, and I came to see you first. So therefore, will you give me the choice? And then Krishna smiled again. And then he said, yes, I agree that you came here first, But you see, when I opened my eyes from my rest, I saw Arjuna first. So therefore, I think I have to give Arjuna, it's who I see first. So therefore, I saw Arjuna first. So I'm going to give Arjuna the choice. So then Duryodhana was, oh my God, that's it, finish lah. So then, but what did Arjuna say? Arjuna, even without hesitating, immediately said, I want you, Krishna. I only want you at my side. And when Krishna heard this, Krishna asked Arjuna, are you sure, Arjuna? Because I'm not going to fight. So I'm just going to come and be with you in your sight. But Arjuna said, yes, that is what I want. And this on the other side, Duryodhana was trying very hard to act like as if he's very neutral and he's very sad or upset. You know, he actually in his heart, he was like thinking, oh, what I wanted has really come. This foolish person, Arjuna, has chosen Krishna out of sentiment. So he was thinking, but he was trying to hide his feelings. He wanted to show Krishna, you know, I wanted you. Then, you know what Duryodhana said after that? Duryodhana said to Krishna, oh, yeah, oh my goodness. Well, since then, I have no choice but to take your army, Krishna. Since Arjuna has already taken you, so therefore I have no choice but to take your army. So this is the nature of Duryodhana, duplicitous, diplomatic, so very, very cunning. So that is how then later, that's how Krishna, you know, then Arjuna told, you know, you're going to be on my side. Then Krishna asked, what service shall I do for you? You know, they are close friends. Arjuna and Krishna, they are very close friends. They are about the same age, so they had that kind of relationship, and they used to do service for each other in that sense. So then Krishna told Arjuna, just like how we have been before, let me drive your chariot. So since I'm not going to fight, let me at least drive your chariot. In this way, I can help you and I can guide you and direct you when necessary. So this is how Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, became the chariot driver of his great devotee Arjuna. So this is the nature of Krishna. So like that, then after that, Arjuna was, okay, so now we come back to our Bhagavad Gita. So signs of victory done, viewing the army, setting the scene. So this is the part where Arjuna comes to the middle. Krishna brings Arjuna to the middle, and then like in this picture here, and then Arjuna becomes overwhelmed. He sees Bhishma, he sees Drona, he sees all his friends, his relatives, everybody ready to fight. So many people in the world. And then he starts giving his various reasons. Before that, you know, we heard about the signs of Arjuna's misery. So, you know, the shaking of the limbs, the Gandiva bow slipping, right? By the way, the Gandiva was another sign of victory. We forgot to mention this now. So like that, and also Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre. That was another sign of victory. Huh? The holy place of Kurukshetra, which would certainly influence the righteous. So then after this signs of misery, then Arjuna began to give all his reasons. He gave 5 reasons. Anyone remembers the 5 reasons?
Enjoyment of a kingdom.
Okay, enjoyment of kingdom. So he said that if I were to fight, how will I win this battle? At the end of it, how can I win? How can I enjoy this kingdom at the cost of the blood of all these people? So that's what he said. Second reason?
Compassion.
Say again?
Compassion.
Compassion. Yes, he was saying, why are you asking me to fight? Why should we kill all these people, right? We should be compassionate towards them. We should just let them take over the kingdom. So, okay, then what else? Third reason?
Sin.
Yes. So he said, if I kill these people, they are my teachers, they are my father-like figure, my uncle-like figure, my relatives, my close family. I will be known as someone who killed the family. So, and then he addresses Krishna, you are called Madhusudan, the killer of the Madhu demon. Would you want me to be known as the killer of my own family? So like that, you know, so he said, I will definitely be covered with sin. Any other reason?
Family tradition.
Yes. Then he said, on top of that, we kill so many people, so almost the entire world, the Kshatriyas, the warriors of the entire world are assembled here to fight. Imagine the population wipeout. Imagine these are all the fathers and the husbands and the kings. So then what will happen? The women and the children will not be protected. Who will be there to uphold religious traditions after this? Everybody will take advantage. They will exploit these people. And out of that, you will get all kinds of situations, hellish situations, and the whole society will go towards hell. So like that. Okay, and then these are the 5. So if you can remember, CESDI, CESDI, C for compassion, E for enjoyment, S for sin, D for dynasty, right? And the last one is I. So I we did not cover, that's coming in chapter 2. Okay, so this is how Arjuna was put into illusion, and now we have completed our recap. So I spent about half an hour doing that. Okay, never mind. So let's continue. Right, so then we have, this is for today, we are going to talk about chapter 2. Chapter 2 is a very long chapter, second longest chapter, 74 verses. And it's called Sankhya Yoga. It's also translated, it's also given the title by Srila Prabhupada as Contents of the Gita Summarized, because this chapter 2 is like a summary. You know, the Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. So, and first chapter already done. The second chapter is the summary of all the topics that are going to be covered in the next 16 chapters. So each chapter will cover specific topics. So here, everything is captured little. But in the beginning, it begins with Sankhya Yoga. So Sankhya Yoga, what is Sankhya Yoga? Sankhya Yoga is the science of differentiation. Science, it's a science. So how is it a science? It is able to differentiate between matter and spirit. It's actually detailed analysis and study about the nature of matter and the nature of spirit. So there is matter and spirit. So to separate these two. So therefore it's called Sankhya Yoga. As we go through this chapter, we will see why it's also called Sankhya Yoga. All right, so let me see. Okay, so Krishna, after patiently hearing Arjuna's reasons, Krishna doesn't accept his reasons. So Arjuna, he'll say, I'm very confused, right? So he will say, how can I fight all this? So then Krishna will denounce Arjuna. He will say, oh Arjuna, seeing Arjuna's mind depressed and eyes full of tears, Krishna, also known as Madhusudana, spoke the following words. He said, my dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? Right? So, and he said, these are not befitting of an Aryan. And it is basically coming out of due to weakness of the heart, Hridaya Daurbalyam. So it is due to your weakness of the heart, these impurities have come upon you, and you are speaking like someone who is not an Arya. Anarya. Anarya means, and Arya means one who knows the goal of life. That is what the meaning of Arya is, right? Arya means one who know, or Aryan means one who knows the goal of life, the purpose of existence, the ultimate Brahman. They know all this. Whereas one who is Anarya means opposite of Arya. So you're talking like a Anarya, one who doesn't know the value of life. Right? He says, do not yield to this kind of weaknesses. Give it up, O chastiser of the enemy. So Krishna is playing the drama here, right? So then Arjuna says, I cannot, how can I fight these people? So then he says, I do not know. I know that these people are ready to kill me. They are standing there. And did we see Duryodhana giving this kind of reasons? Duryodhana was not bothered. He was ready to fight them. And he went on urging all the others to also fight. Whereas Arjuna, he's a very compassionate person. So therefore, he was a very saintly and virtuous person. So even though Arjuna is put into illusion, can we see what is coming out of Arjuna? he did not know the higher truths. He did not know due to this illusion, he became Anarya, but his character was very great. His character was full of compassion. He was full of virtue. So that is the difference we can see between Arjuna and Duryodhana. So in other words, Krishna is trying to tell us that before we can progress in spiritual life, we have to develop certain necessary qualities. And one of these necessary qualities is the quality of compassion. We have to have compassion, and we have to be able to understand virtue. What is virtue, right? Later on, we will speak more about all these things. Don't worry. This is just a preview, as I'm saying, right? So that is the beginning. So saintly character will lead to ultimately achieve the goal of life. So, and then after that, Arjuna, he tells Krishna, I don't think I'm confused. I know they are ready to kill me, but what can I do? I can't fight them. Better I go and just live somewhere, become a beggar in the forest or something, right? So I don't know what to do. So then he sits down, and then after some time, at the end of that, whatever he said, but he also recognizes, this is also the speciality of Arjuna. Arjuna has many qualities, right? And another quality is he is able to recognize his weakness. He's telling Krishna, oh Krishna, I can understand what you're saying. I can see this is weakness of my heart, Hridaya Daurbalyam, right? But I'm confused. So now, because I'm recognizing this in me, I am now surrendering myself to you. So therefore, he speaks this very famous verse. So a lot of people memorize this verse. It is called the verse of surrender. So let us say this beautiful verse. Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha prachami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha yat shreyashan nischitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. So this verse, the translation goes like this. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. So he acknowledges his situation. So this is the first step. We have to know our disease. We have to know what is our problem, right? And most of the time, by ourselves, we get covered by our ego. So we start justifying ourselves. No, I'm this, I'm that. So that's why we need someone to tell us what is our problem. When we are young, our parents should be telling us, you are like this, you are like that, better you buck up, don't be lazy. They have the right to say these things. But as we grow older, we take away the right from people. So therefore, we do not sometimes know what is our problem. And especially nowadays, a lot of propaganda is there to I'm great, I'm wonderful, I'm nice. This kind of so-called, it gets packaged in the positive thinking category, but actually it's not helping you. So therefore, we have to understand how to differentiate it correctly. So therefore, what does Arjuna say? He says, out of karpanya doshotpahata, this is miserly weakness, and then I become confused. Dharma sammuda chetaha, my dharma has become confused. Yeah. So then he says, yat shreyasyan, you will know what's good for me. You Krishna will know what's good for me. Yat shreya means what's good. So therefore, now I am your disciple. Sishyaste, shishya, the word shishya means disciple. I am now your disciple. Sishyaste aham, to you. I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. I am now mam tvam prapannam. Prapannam means surrender. Mam means to you. Tvam means I. So I am now surrendering to you. Please instruct me. Right? So nischitam bruhitanme. So please tell me what I should do. So this is the first step towards spiritual understanding. So every scripture will recommend one to accept a spiritual master or a guru. So that's why guru is very important. And in this case, he's very fortunate because the Supreme Lord himself is right in front of him, and Arjuna is able to recognize this and he's able to take advantage of this. So he's surrendering to Krishna. So then begins this entire Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna, he gives his instructions from verse 2.10 all the way to the 18th chapter. He gives his full instruction to Arjuna. So ready? See, this we begin. So the first instruction which Krishna gives to Arjuna is Atma Tattva. What is Atma Tattva? This is Atma Tattva, the science of the soul. So he tells Arjuna, look Arjuna, he reminds Arjuna again what is his actual position. Why? Because he is trying to counter the argument of compassion. Compassion is very good. Yes, it's a saintly quality. But here Arjuna has misplaced his compassion. This is a question of misplaced compassion. You know, just like how when someone is drowning in the sea, and you are able to save the person's clothes, but you're not able to save the person's body itself, right? So therefore someone is crying for the clothes but not for the person. So this is called, therefore we need to know the difference between the clothes and the person. So of course, obviously we would save the person, right? Rather than, of course we could save both, that would be good. But if there's no choice, then at least the person is saved. And we don't worry about whether the clothes get destroyed and everything. So this is Atma Tattva, very important. And this is a part of Sankhya Yoga, and it's the first basic instruction, the foundation for spiritual knowledge. Because if we don't understand Atma, then there is no scope for religion. Because people will think, you know, nothing is going to happen. I am living now. After I die, I'm dead. That's it. Finish. Case closed. End of story. So therefore, you know, there are some philosophies going about like that nowadays. If you have heard of YOLO, YOLO, YOLO means you live only once, or you only live once. So this kind of philosophy is a very materialistic philosophy. So therefore people say, enjoy. No need to worry about whether you're doing right or whether you're doing wrong. Just enjoy. And then when you die, it's all done with. So that's it. So therefore, live like there's no tomorrow. So this kind of philosophies are being given out by some people. So we will see what Krishna has to say about all this. So it begins with this question, who am I? Right? Who am I? What am I? Right? So let's see. Are we this? When I say me, you know, we always say my head. My head is pain. I have pain in my head. My head, my hand, my mouth. So if it's my mouth, my head, my hand, my house, my car, does that mean the car is also you? Right? So if you know, or if you say my family, does that mean the family is also me? So like that, similarly, my hand. So does that mean the hand is me? If I cut off my hand, what happens to the me? The hand is there, the hand is gone, but I'm still here, right? So what? Am I the body, or am I something else also? So who is this me? My head, my body. So who is my? Who am I? Right? If the body is not me, then who am I? So it's a very interesting question. So let's see what science has to say for us. So there's this person, Dr. Harry Monson, quite some time ago, about 20 years or so, professor of anatomy at the Illinois College of Medicine. So he says that actually who are we? We are basically, he says, mostly we are water. We are made out of water, right? 70% of our body weight is made out of water. So in a 60-pound person, there we have calcium, 5 pounds, magnesium, 9 ounces, phosphorus, 2 pounds, sulfur and sodium 6 ounce each, and other trace substance which is 1 ounce. So altogether, this is what we are. This is what science says, right? So we are a bunch of chemicals, right? And together, if you can buy all this calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, sulfur, and all this from a pharmacy, and it will cost roughly about $9 US. So is that human life's worth? So tell that to the person who got crashed in this car, to the loved ones who died, the person who died in this car crash. So why do they cry then? It's just $9. Why bother? In fact, the car is more expensive, isn't it? Maybe they're crying for the car. So, but nowadays they have said, okay, not $9, right? The US insurance company, they have set a value for human life. Based on the insurance, they have set, okay, generally the human life, okay, the one $9, we make it $200,000. So that is the standard value for human life. Do you all agree? It's 200,000. Our lives are worth 200,000. Of course, some millionaires, maybe their net worth is higher. So actually, obviously it's not, right? It's irreplaceable. Right? It's a rhetoric question, obvious. So sometimes we see also when we go to a funeral, sometimes they say, oh, he has passed away, he's dead, he's gone. And then we see everybody crowding over the body, right? He has passed away. But who has passed away? Mr. John has passed away. But Mr. John is lying on the bed. Yeah, but he's dead. Okay, what is dead, right? He says he has passed away. Who has passed away? The body is still there, right? So where has he gone? So if you say Mr. John has gone to the hospital, then okay, we understand. But here Mr. John has not gone to the hospital. He's on the bed and he's passed away. So what has passed away? So obviously, there's only one answer. We can call it whatever we want. There is something which has gone from that body. So for want of a better word, we call it soul. The scientists cannot recognize this. So this is the difference between matter and spirit. So science is all about matter and spirit is something else. So that we have to know the difference. So let's see what Krishna has to say. So Krishna says in Gita 2:13, it's another very famous verse which is worth memorizing. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuhyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. This is the first revelation for us, right? Of course, many of us may know this already, but here we have proof from scripture, evidence. So this is the first revelation for us, the first knowledge for us to understand before we go into deeper subject matters, right? A sober person, therefore, is not bewildered by such a change. So Krishna is just like saying, how we were all born, so we had a baby body, and then after that we had a toddler body, then we had a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old body, then there was a teenage times, right? Then there's adult, right? And then after that we have the 40s, and then the 50s, right? So, and then the 60s, and then the 70s, and so forth. And then what happens? But the body changes, right? The body changes. The body that we had 20 years ago looks different. All we have to do is look at our photographs. Of course, we can say there is some, resemblance and all that, but certainly it's a different body. Our hair may be black at that time. Now our hair is white or whatever. And those at that time we had cute chubby cheeks, and now we are looking something else. Okay, so like that, the soul similarly passes into another body. So just like how we are not bewildered, we are still the same person, right? Can we say we are now a different soul? 20 years ago, I was a different soul because my body was different. Now 30 years ago, 30 years later, I'm a different soul. No, we are the same person. We remember everything. Well, at least we remember most things. So like that. So therefore, Krishna is saying, similarly, death is simply another change. It's another change. But this is a big change because we now go into another body. So at death, we go into another body. So this is what it says. And in 222, Krishna says, the example is this. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya. So I'll just go to the translation straight away. As a person puts on new garments, giving up the old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Why does it do this? Or what are the factors? That we will discuss later on as we go in the different chapters. Okay, beginning with this understanding. So it's like how we change clothes. In the morning we wear something, tomorrow we wear different clothes. So similarly, through time immemorial, the body has been changing, but the same soul is going on. So sometimes, we say, oh, he is an old soul. So actually, there is no old soul. We are all the same age, actually, as far as souls are concerned. In terms of souls, we are all the same age. But what is different then? It's a matter of maturity, right? So some people, they are very matured when they are very young. So why is that some people have different levels of maturity? Interesting questions which will be answered at the end of this course. So what about evidence? Does science have anything to say about this past life business? So if you actually search, you will find there are quite a number of scientific books which have been written on the topic of reincarnation. Reincarnation is what science terms as taking birth again and again and again. So there are many books written, over 100 books actually, more than that, and written by credible people. You can see some of them. You see Brian L. Weiss, MD, doctor. Another one, Ian Stevenson. He's a very famous personality in this field, Dr. Ian Stevenson. He's just not a nobody. He actually holds the Carlson Chair of Psychiatry. He's a professor, and he sat in the Carlson Chair of Psychiatry at the University of Virginia. And he had extensively investigated over 2,000 cases of reincarnation memories. So he had actually done scientific, investigation. But of course, mainstream science being what it is, it will not really accept. So it likes to close its eyes on certain things which it's not comfortable about, or which it doesn't want to explain. So therefore, we have mainstream science and we have alternative science. So anyway, this is from a mainstream person only. So then we have this story. One example, this came in the papers last time in India. So it's a story about how this girl, Manju, when she was 2 years old, she claimed to be a reincarnation of a person, a boy called Krishna in his previous life. Not Krishna Bhagavan, but another boy in his previous life called Krishna. And she claimed at 2 years old, and she told these people clear memories. She in fact told how she had drowned in the village, how she spends time, and then she told the name of her mother. And then this was investigated by certain people, right? And they brought her to meet her old mother. So here you can see a picture where she spends time with her mother in her previous birth, which is on the left. This is the mother in her previous birth, and this is the mother on the right, the current birth mother. So interesting. Like that, there are many snippets. Here's another one. This is investigated by Dr. Brian Weiss of the Sinai Medical Research Center in the US. So this tells of a story about Mahinder, a 3-year-old boy. You can imagine, 2 years old. Where would they get the idea to speak like this, right? So this is 3-year-old boy Mahinder in the blue shirt. He remembers himself as Ogat Ram, killed in an accident. He traveled to Ogat's village and took sweets for his 3 children. So in his previous life, he had 3 children. These are his 3 children in his previous life. He died and then took birth again, and then he brought sweets for these children of his. So it was very interesting. So like that, there are many. So this person, Dr. Colin Watson, he says, the sheer volume of evidence for survival after death is so immense that to ignore it is like standing at the foot of Mount Everest and insisting that you cannot see the mountain. So unfortunately, that's the stand taken by mainstream science nowadays in a lot of matters. It's not just this matter. So even if you look at many other religions also, there are roots of reincarnation embedded. Even in Christianity, it's there. Actually, it's mentioned at the time of Jesus Christ, there were 40 to 50 gospels which were being circulated at that time. But what we find in the Bible today is only 4 gospels. The Gospel of John, the Gospel of Matthew, and 2 more, I can't remember their names. So like that. But what happened to the other remaining gospels? The majority of them. So some of them didn't make it to the Bible. Someone had an opportunity to select which one was convenient, which one was not convenient. So this is the problem. And it's described that some of those gospels spoke about the concepts of reincarnation. There are certain minor sects which actually keep some of these records, which are not mainstream, again, not mainstream Christianity, but they keep some evidence of this. So let's go on to what Krishna says about the soul. So we are curious, okay, most of us here probably believe in the soul, right? And let's find out more about the soul. You just look at the time, okay, it's going to be 9, right? So we can understand the soul is an individual. What's the evidence? Bhagavad Gita 2, chapter 2, verse 12. Natu evaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva na bhavisyamaha sarve vayam ataparam. Never was there a time, Krishna is telling Arjuna, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So this is a very important point. That means it says that we were eternal. Right from beginning till the future, the far future, we are always going to exist. And it also says that not only we are going to exist, we are going to be individuals. In the past, we were individuals. Currently, we are individuals. In the future, we are also individuals. So this is to refute. There are some people who go about with the philosophy that everything becomes one, that we lose our individuality, and in the end, we all merge into the one. So this is refuted here in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So individuality. There are other places also where it mentions this point. And then let's see what else Bhagavad Gita says. Bhagavad Gita specifically doesn't say where the soul is situated. Now, if I ask you, where is the soul situated? So most of us will not, some may say the brain, some may say whatever. But anyway, this is not mentioned specifically in the Gita, but Prabhupada, in his purport, in his explanations, he quotes this Mundaka Upanishad. Mundaka Upanishad, this is Upanishad from the Vedas. And it says that the soul is found in the region of the heart. So does that mean it's in the heart? Yeah, it's in the heart. So then what does that mean? If I go for a heart transplant, do I change souls? No, it doesn't follow the heart. It is simply the location, GPS. It's like the GPS of the soul is there, but if the heart is moved, that doesn't mean the soul GPS moves. The soul GPS is still there. So we are talking about the region. So it's just like like how we say it's like a seat. It's basically a seat. Hmm? So then what else do we know about? But though it is there in the heart, it's like the power cell. It's like the consciousness. It is the seat of consciousness. Now, what's the difference between a dead body and a live body? The difference is the consciousness, right? The consciousness is not there when the person is dead. Permanently, it has been removed. Sometimes when we sleep, we put our consciousness into suspension, right? Or sometimes when we go into coma, this is temporary. But when we die, that body no longer holds any consciousness. It's dead. So that's the difference between the live matter and the dead matter. So, of course, consciousness has symptoms. For example, there is growth, there is production of byproducts. We produce waste, or we produce children or progeny, right? So like that, and there are 6 things that the living entity goes through. It appears, it takes birth, or in various forms it appears, right? And then it grows, it maintains. These are called the 6 transformations. It appears, it grows, and then it remains for some time. It produces progeny, or it produces some wastage, right? And after that it dwindles, and then after that it dies. So these are called the 6 transformation. Every living entity goes through this 6 transformation. So what else? Bhagavad Gita doesn't specifically say, but we can also understand from Svetasvatara Upanishad that the soul is very small, is anu. It is described here. If you take the upper point of a hair, that means you take the tip of your hair, the very tip of your hair, just break it into the small tip. And then if you divide it into 100 parts, and then you take that one of that part, and you again divide that one part into 100 part, then you will get the size of the soul. So this is what is described in the Svetasvatara Upanishad. So it's mentioned it's very, very small, anu. So we are anu, but Krishna is Vibhu. Bhagavan is Vibhu. Vibhu is the opposite of anu. It is unimaginably big, right? It's like how we look at it as if we take the ocean and the drop of water from the ocean. So that's the difference. So we have the same quality as the ocean. If you take the drop of water, the drop of water which we take from the ocean is salty, correct? It is wet, correct? So quality, same. But intrinsic quality, we're talking about intrinsic quality, is the same. But in terms of quantity, it is very, very different. And due to the difference of quantity, there is also some qualitative difference also which may follow, because the ocean can destroy cities. Now, a drop of water cannot destroy a city. So in that sense, there are some differences in quality also. But the intrinsic quality, it's wet, both is wet, both also is made up of H2O particles and some minerals, and it has salt in it, right? So in that sense, that is the difference between us, Atma, and Paramatma, the super soul or the supreme Lord. So this is described in Bhagavad Gita. So I'm basically skipping a few verses. Like as I said, we cannot really cover 700 verses in 18 days, but we will go through the main topics and we will select certain important verses to discuss. What else? The soul is also indestructible. Indestructible. So here's the proof. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be cut into pieces by weapons. Na inam chindanti shastrani. Shastrani means weapon. Chindanti means to be cut into pieces. Chindanti, broken into pieces by shastrani, any kind of weapon. So we are basically invulnerable to the soul. When I say we, I'm talking about the soul. The body is vulnerable, but the soul is not. It cannot be destroyed by weapons. Na inam dahati pavakaha. It cannot be burnt by fire, right? Nainam kledayanti apo. Apo means water. It cannot be moistened by water. Just now I gave the example of the ocean and the water droplets, but that's just to give the idea of the difference between the soul and the Paramatma. But in terms of quality, we are not water, we are spirit. So what is spirit? Spirit means it cannot be affected by water, air, fire, cannot be affected by matter, weapons, right? And soshayati marutaha, wind cannot wither it. So that means, in other words, it is unaffected by elements. These elements, the panchabhutas, the 5 elements, right? Earth, water, fire, air, ether, these things cannot affect the soul. So in other words, the soul is unaffected by matter. So this is another quality of the spirit or the Atma. And then what else Krishna says in chapter 2? Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuyaha ajo nitya sasvato ayam purano na hanyate hanyamane sarire. For the soul, there is never birth nor death. So the body takes birth, right? The soul enters into a new body, right? And therefore we say the body takes birth and the body dies. But the intelligence behind that, the consciousness behind that is not killed, neither does it take birth. It is eternal. So na jayate, na means no, jayate means birth, mriyate, death, no birth, no death. Now having once been, does he ever cease to be? So never does he die. He's always eternal. He is ajo. Ajo means, comes from the word aja. Aja means unborn. Nitya, eternal, right? Sashvato, ever existing. And ayam purano, he is primeval. That means he is the very essence of the spirit. He is there even before any other material creation. And he says here, na hanyate hanyamani sarire. He is not slain when the body is slain. So he's telling Arjuna, you are not killing these people. You are not actually killing them, because them are not the body, they are the soul, right? So your compassion is having a flaw in it. So Krishna is telling this to us. What does that mean? Does that mean it's all right for us to kill? No, that is a different point. So we will clarify this shortly. Okay. So here Arjuna is trying to tell, Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, okay, first you have to understand the soul. You have to understand who you are, and you have to understand who they are, and you have to understand that actually you're not killing them. So then what are you going to do to them? So therefore, what you have to do is necessary as your occupation, because you are a Kshatriya. And a Kshatriya means you have to defend Dharma. And because you have to defend Dharma, a Kshatriya is allowed to kill without incurring sin. So a warrior, in the name of Dharma, he can kill without incurring sin, as long as he is really upholding Dharma correctly. He has to uphold, what is Dharma? Dharma is Satyam, truthfulness. Dharma is Saucham, cleanliness. Dharma is Tapaha, austerities, sacrifice, right? Dharma is Daya, mercy. So in order to protect these, sometimes it's necessary to have violence. And only one of these classes of society is allowed to do this violence. Only the specially trained Kshatriyas, the warriors. So therefore, in the discharge of our duties, we cannot consider this. If the Kshatriya, it's like a duty of a teacher is to teach. If the teacher doesn't teach and says that I'm not going to teach this person because, if I teach this person will become better than me, and then I will not become famous. So therefore, if he thinks like that, then he is sinful. So he has to teach. So that is the idea, in order to pass knowledge. So therefore, the warrior has to protect Dharma, and he cannot say, oh, the people who are attacking Dharma are my family members, are my relatives, and I'm close to them, so how can I kill them? So if he speaks like that, then he is not executing his duty as a Kshatriya. So this is what Krishna is trying to drive at. And he's slowly, in this way, defeating Arjuna's different excuses which he gave. So what else about the soul? Soul is inconceivable. So it is said, what is soul? Why is it this meaning is very important. Inconceivable means achintya. The word achintya is a very special word. It's not easy to be translated in the English word because they have no such experience of it. So achintya means something which cannot be understood. It is beyond our material understanding. We can only understand it when we are in the kingdom of God. That time we can understand. So it is something, there are certain things which are inconceivable. The soul, like in that sense. So it is said that the soul is invisible. How is it inconceivable? It is invisible. No matter what the scientists do, they cannot reveal the soul. Inconceivable. It cannot be conceived because it's not matter. It's not earth, water, fire, air, ether, or its transformations. And it is another important point. It is immutable. That means it cannot be changed. It cannot undergo change. The soul is always the same. It remains the same. It doesn't change, right? Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So this is what Krishna is telling to Arjuna. Soul is unchangeable. 224. This individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, and can neither be burned nor dried. He's again re-establishing the aspect that, soul cannot be affected by matter. He's mentioning it again. He is everlasting. This is the final confirmation he gives about the soul. After this, he will not talk about the soul. Krishna will talk about something else. He is everlasting. It is basically the summary verse for the soul. We can memorize this also. Achedyo ayam adayo yam akledyo ashosya evacha nitya sarvagata stanur achalo ayam sanatanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. So this is the description. Right, so we've heard about the qualities of the soul, right? So we've got some ideas on this based on scriptural evidence. So what does this mean for us all? So a bit of practical understanding. So here Krishna is going to eventually give us another revelation, another very important point, right? Like for example, we learn plus, minus, then we learn multiplication, divide, then we learn other things, right? Calculus, differentiation, integration, and trigonometry, and so forth, all built upon our ability to plus, minus, divide, and multiply. So like that, this understanding of the soul is the plus, minus, divide, multiply, like that. So from there, we can now go on to another concept which builds upon this reincarnation. So now that we know that we are the soul, so there comes now the law of reincarnation. So Krishna has said that we take death, we take, at the time of death, right, we go into another body, and then we continue, and then we die, we take another body, then we continue, and then we die. And then it's not necessarily only human body, unfortunately. So we could also go down and take a body as an animal, different species of animal, and then become human, and then again go into animal life or even plant life. Or we can also go higher. We can also take higher beings. We can take birth as higher beings. So this is possible. Later on, we will give you some evidence on that from the Bhagavad Gita. But let's just talk about the law of reincarnation first. So we should ask these questions for us, right? What does it mean for us? It means basically we should ask, why is this happening? Why are we, it's like an endless loop. This is the infinity sign. It's an endless loop going on and on and on since time immemorial. Why is this happening? And more importantly also, we should be asking ourselves, what determines the next birth? Oh, because we should know what's our next situation, what's going to happen to us. So can we know what are the factors that affect what kind of birth we are going to get in our next life? So yes, by the end of this course, we will know all these things. Can I control the next destination? Okay, if I know factors, then is it possible if I can control them? So this is also a very important question we should be asking, right? But the most important question is, how do I stop this? What if I don't want to go through this loop? Is there a way out of this loop? Or even if, do I want to stop it? Of course, once we know our situation, then we will want to stop it. And of course, finally, what happens to me after that? If I stop it and I'm able to escape this loop, what will happen to me after that? So these are very important questions, which is something which we can only ask in this human species of life, right? So therefore, we have the material viewpoint. If the materialistic viewpoint, what is the materialistic viewpoint? According to science, according to material people, they will say we are a bunch of chemicals, right? Or even and worth $9, or now current rate is $200,000, or maybe in a few more years, inflation will bring it up to 500,000 or $500,000. We don't know, but it's certainly cheaper than a Toyota Camry or something like that as of now. So sorry, not Toyota, Mercedes or whatever. So, and science also says we are basically made up of matter. We are nothing more than a chemical bundle. But nowadays, science goes a little bit beyond that. They accept that we are not inert. Nowadays in chemistry, they have inorganic chemistry and organic chemistry. So, okay, now they accept that, okay, there is a difference, not just matter, organic matter. And then they go a bit beyond that between life and death. Okay, they say, okay, not just organic matter. Now they say that we are animals. Mainstream science classifies us as animals. Do we agree to that? So that's not what scripture tells us. So what's the difference then between these animals? So, and then, because people believe like this, everything is finished at the time of death. So therefore, what does that mean to them? That means there is no need for morality. There is no need for dharma. There is no need to do anything. We only need to care about our greed, our own desires, our own wants. So of course, if we all touch our hearts, we know that is really not really the answer. So, but people, they don't want to think this way. So they come up with these convenient things. So the difference between animals, right, and human beings is that an animal cannot ask these questions. And not only he cannot ask these questions, he cannot do anything about them. The animal can't do anything about it. He's trapped in the loop. So the only way the loop can be broken is when the soul takes the body of a human being. Because in the human life, he has the capacity to ask these questions and, more importantly, to do something about it. So that is the only way to break the loop. So a human birth of life is very, very important. So that's the difference, right? A dog cannot understand religion, right? You go and talk to a dog, you have to do this, he only does it because if he does it, he gets rewards. If he doesn't do it, then he'll get punished. So they only understand that. So that's not what we are. We understand a lot of other things, particularly these things, the higher questions. So there's a short story, not a short story, this is an example. An example. So what happens, unfortunately? So most people in this world end up having the mentality of this lady here. So this lady, there was once an old lady, and this old lady had a parrot. So, and she kept this parrot in a beautiful cage. She thought, the parrot is so beautiful, I should also put this parrot in a cage which is worthy of this parrot's beauty. So therefore, she made a parrot out of gold. She made a cage out of gold. So she kept this special gold cage and kept a parrot. And then, she had friends, and the friends would come and see. But she had this one thing, because she paid so much of money for this cage, it's made out of gold. So what she did, she would be very careful to clean the cage, because the parrot will pass stool and urine and things like that, and feathers will drop. And so therefore she will every day meticulously, she will clean the cage. But what happened, after about 6 days, the parrot died. And then the friends were asking this lady, why did your parrot die? So then the lady said, I don't know. I tried to take care of the parrot so well, but then they found out, then the friends asked, okay, maybe there was some problem with what you were feeding the parrot. And then the lady was saying, feeding? Oh my God, I forgot to feed the parrot. I was so busy taking care of the cage that I completely forgot to feed the parrot. So that's why the parrot died. So this is a simple analogy of the story. It's basically to show us that most people in the world, materialistic people especially, they are like this. The parrot represents the soul and the cage represents the body. So most of the time, governments, society, family members, and ourselves, we spend a lot of time ensuring that we have a beautiful cage. I like to upgrade our cage from a steel cage to a golden cage, and maybe to a cage made out of jewels or whatever. So, and we seldom bother to worry about the soul. So we do not think about the soul. We just think about the cage. So this is simple example, a story to illustrate this fact. So what's the spiritual viewpoint then? The spiritual viewpoint is, we are not the material body of flesh and bones. We are the spirit soul encaged in the material body. So, and then it's like the bird, right? The bird is trapped in the cage. So we are like the spirit soul trapped in this cycle of birth and death in different bodies, right? Flesh and bones, different, or sometimes plants, sometimes insects, sometimes fish. And we do not die when material body stops to function. So we continue to live in a different existence. So this is basically what chapter 2 Gita, Sankhya Yoga, is talking about. So now that we know we are the soul, how do we act? And what do we do? So then Krishna gives these answers. So therefore he tells Arjuna. So Krishna is now done with refuting the compassion excuse given by Arjuna. Arjuna gave the compassion, right? So Krishna has told, no, look, your compassion is not properly placed, right? First of all, you must understand that you're not killing anybody, that this is the soul, and your job is to kill anyway, because you're a Kshatriya. So therefore, he continues and ends with this particular verse on the topic of compassion. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, Arjuna, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. So before we go into that, right, we want to talk about the first part. You have the right to perform your prescribed duty. So duty has to be done. So Krishna, we are actually skipping this entire set of verses, 231 to 237, where Krishna will try to convince Arjuna that actually you are doing, if you don't do your duty and if you don't uphold dharma, because the Kauravas are adharmic, they are destroying dharma. And it is my request that you need to uphold dharma in this world. And you are the appointed fighter, warrior, Kshatriya. And Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas are going to be the king. So therefore, you need to uphold dharma. If you come and tell me I, the appointed person, am not going to uphold dharma because I'm going to fight with family members and because I want to enjoy kingdom, these are not the real reasons. Your real reason is you know that this is your rightful duty as a Kshatriya. So the idea is one cannot give excuses in the execution of one's duty, in upholding one's duty, especially when it's a righteous duty. So Arjuna defeats, Krishna defeats Arjuna's arguments of no enjoyment. So that one out, we won't talk about it today. We will speak about that in more detail in level 2. There are too many topics. So therefore, we will focus more on the topic of the soul. So I think someone is not muted. Okay, I'll mute you at the moment, Mataji, so don't mind. It is, let me just check the time. Okay, it's 9:25. Just bear with me a bit more. We are almost going to be done with. And I know it's getting a bit late. If you have to leave, please do. We are recording the session, and probably you can go through the recordings later part if you are not able to follow the session till the end. My apologies. Chapter 2 is a bit long. Chapter 3 onwards, we will keep it to the time as far as possible. So we are almost done though. So therefore, Krishna now gives Arjuna, we asked just now, right? What should we do? We asked, now that we know we are the soul, how do we act? What do we do? So there are many, many instructions on this. The first level of instruction Krishna gives is this, yoga karma. He tells, you have the right to perform your duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits. That means we should act for the sake of duty, not for the sake of motivation. Now, we will talk about this in more detail. This will be the topic where we will discuss in chapter 3. Krishna will talk about karma yoga, chapter 3, and in detail. So I'm not going to go through this. So basically, he's telling Arjuna, do your duty. Don't worry about the result. Don't worry whether you will win or whether you are going to lose or whether whatever. Because it is your righteous duty, and because I'm telling you to do it also, so therefore you need to fight. But later on, Krishna also begins to hint. Remember, I mentioned chapter 2 is like a summary. It's like basically a prequel. You know, when we see movie, we sometimes see a preview, right? The preview will tell us how the movie is going to end up. So then it will arouse our interest, and then we'll want to watch the movie. It will tell, you know, it has this scene, that scene. So in the same way, Krishna is doing the same thing. He is giving verses here and there to hint at higher and higher things. And then eventually in the rest of the chapters, he will go into those things in detail. So Krishna begins to hint at something even higher. Doing your duty is one thing for the sake of doing your duty. So what Krishna is telling here, by thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the result of work in the material world. So here is the first hint given to Arjuna, how to break free from this cycle, from this loop. So therefore he says here, by engaging in devotional service, in bhakti seva, right, to the Lord, one frees themselves of this. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries. So more on this, the entire Bhagavad Gita is going to speak, every chapter is going to have this point, and we are going to speak about that in detail. So I'll just go through fast at this time for chapter 2. So then after that, Krishna talks about, Arjuna will ask Krishna, after he aroused his interest, Arjuna will ask Krishna, can you describe this person who is able to free himself from this material existence? What kind of person is this? So then from this entire verse 2.54 to verse 70, which is called Sthita Prajna, that means the self-realized person, Arjuna will start telling one by one what are his qualities. So I'm just putting the more important points here so that we can stick to the flow of the discussion that we are, with the flow of the points that we are presenting. Okay. One who restrains his senses. So who is this person who is eligible to escape this cycle? One who restrains his senses, not simply giving in to his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, right, is known, matpara. Matpara means to me, matparaha, to consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So when I say man, I mean woman also. Basically, man here refers to human being, right? So it's known as man of steady intelligence. And then, okay, controlling the senses, right? And fixing our mind upon the Lord, okay? What else? But a person free from all attachment. What is the point of controlling the senses and the point of attaching ourselves to the lotus feet of the Lord? So that we can be free from all attachment and aversion. Raga and dvesha. Raga means attachment, dvesha means aversion. So this is our fundamental problem. This is giving you a hint about why we are here in this loop in this first place, why we are here in this material world. We will talk about this later on, very much later on, but this is the first hint Krishna gives on this aspect. So we need to conquer this attachment and aversion, and able to control his senses through the regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. So these are the people who can get them. And what is this mercy of the Lord? The mercy of the Lord means they are able to escape this situation. And what is this situation? Why should we escape this situation? Because this situation is not a nice situation. Taking this birth again and again and again is not going to be very nice. Why? So Krishna again gives a hint. For one thus satisfied in this way, in Krishna consciousness, because just now he said, one who concentrates his mind upon myself, right? The threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. So therefore, this situation that we are is not a very wonderful situation, because it is subjected to the three miseries. What is these three miseries? First is called Adi Atmika, the Adi Devika. Adi Devika means, Adi Devika Klesha. Klesha means miseries. So miseries caused by what? Caused by the Devikas, the Devatas. So, you know, according to our karma, according to our what we deserve and what we don't deserve, we have to go through certain things which we cannot control. Like, for example, disease, pandemic, natural disasters like earthquake, you know, the political situation in a particular country. So things like that, which we cannot control. So Adi Daivika. So that causes us misery. Then the second one is Adi Bhautika. Adi Bhautika means miseries caused by other living entities. You know, like people are bad to us, they say bad things to us, they hurt our feelings, they persecute us, they force us to take poison, you know, all kinds of horrible things. So, and people, it can also mean other living entities, like, you know, mosquitoes bite us. So that kind of thing. That is Adi Bhautika. Or we have a grumpy boss at work. So, or we may have family members who are cause of such misery to to us, right? And then we also have the last one, which is the most important one. Actually, the acharyas say the other two can be conquered. Even Adi Devika will not affect us so much if we can conquer the first one. The first one is called Adi Atmika. Misery is caused by one's own self, one's own mind. You know, sometimes we have uncontrolled mind. Everything may be fine. You know, a third person may say, our situation is actually not bad, but are we really happy about it? We get worried, we get disturbed, you know. So there are people like this, situations where, you know, every day they cry themselves to sleep, or, you know, it's nothing really so bad, but then they create situations for themselves. Oh, this person said like this about me. They conjecture, you know, they come and start thinking all kinds of things. What a person would have said, oh, he feels like that about me, So this is misery of the mind. It's all within your own thinking. So this is Adi Atmika. So for one thus satisfied in spirituality, in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence no longer exist. This is there for every living entity, including animals and plants. Of course, plants don't have the mind so much to worry about, but they do have Adi Devika and they do have Adi Bhautika. So in such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. So we are done already. Actually, I'm supposed to end with this story, which I prepared for you. This story is basically to tell you about the example of this such a person, the Sthita Prajna. So since it's late already, what I will do, oh no, but you need to answer the quiz. Okay, well, never mind. What I will do, I will give it to you. I will tell you the story tomorrow together with the chapter 3. And for the quiz, there will be one question where they will ask you about this particular story. So that one question alone, don't worry about it. Just put any answer you want, which you think is close to it. And then we will discuss that in tomorrow's session. The question, I will talk about that question and the answer after the story in tomorrow's session. Okay, so we will end with that. Any questions, anyone? Oops, what did I do?
Prabhu, any clue, Prabhu, sorry, this is Padma, any clue
Yes.
about that story? Anything that you, in a very brief, because I'm so engrossed with your story,
Okay.
I don't mind the time, yeah. Any brief description about the story?
Okay, well, I don't want to ruin my punchlines. So, so I want to give it due justice. So if I say it,
Okay.
You will not enjoy it as well.
Okay, no worries then, totally
Okay.
understand. So I'll
All
wait
right.
for tomorrow.
Okay, sure.
Thanks.
Any
Thanks,
other
Prabhu.
questions? All right, thank you. Any other questions from anybody? I'm looking at the chat, nothing in the chat so far. You can unmute yourself. And
Prabhu,
yeah.
I have a question, Prabhu. Prabhu, during this conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, the whole population of the world was at Kurukshetra, is it?
Sorry, I couldn't hear that again. Could you repeat the what?
The whole population of the world was in Kurukshetra?
No, not everyone. What I mean is the entire king, all the kings and all the warriors of the world. So every kingdom in the world at that time was recruited for this battle. So it was a huge, the biggest battle in history of the world, you could say. So at that time, Bharat Varsha was the entire world. This is 5,000 plus years ago. So there are evidence of that. There are evidences to show that they have discovered ancient sites of Vedic heritage in many countries, in Europe, in Egypt, in Russia, in different parts of the world where they have discovered, Vishnu temple, they have discovered deities, they have discovered Agni temple in Turkey. So this is basically evidence to show that the whole world at one point of time was Bharat Varsha. And Yudhishthira Maharaj was the king of the world at that time. And then later he lost his kingdom, Duryodhana cheated him. And then this war, it took part in such a way that all the kings had to come. It involved everybody. It's part of Krishna's plan also, because many of those kings all became rather demonic in nature. They were not very dharmic. And as I said yesterday, Bhuma Devi herself prayed for deliverance. So therefore, one of the purpose of this Mahabharata war, Krishna wanted to kill all these adharmic people, one shot. So that's why this Mahabharata war had to take place. And as it takes place, many things we learn also. Okay, Prabhu?
Okay, Prabhu. Prabhu, one more question.
Hmm.
Prabhu, and then when this conversation was happening, right? Everyone was listening, correct?
Not
it was only
everyone.
spoken to Arjuna.
Not everyone was listening. Certain people, Sanjaya was hearing this, and he was telling this to Dhritarashtra. Those who are nearby were able to hear this. The Pandavas, Yudhishthira Maharaj was there. And of course, Bhishma and Drona, because Krishna brought Arjuna and made him stand right in front of Bhishma and Drona. So they could also see this. And Duryodhana could also hear this. But Duryodhana, we all know what kind of person he is. He couldn't accept Krishna anyway, even before. So not everybody, only some. And later, because of that, it was put into Mahabharata by Vyasadeva, and then it's given to everybody as scripture.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, I do not see anything else in the chat, so I presume it's okay. So anyway, if you do think of any questions later on also, feel free to put it in your chat. It's not in the chat, sorry. You can put it in the WhatsApp, and we can go through them again in the next day. Okay, so with that, thank you so much for bearing with me. Apologies for the time, and really glad that all of you could continue with this. So I try to keep it on time tomorrow. Should be a bit shorter, right? So I'll see you all. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Good night, everyone.
Jai.
Hare Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.